This is so sad that Blockbuster is now part of the museum. It didn't seem so long ago. I mean, the last time I went to a Blockbuster was in the 2000s when I was in university.
Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to explore Den Gamle By, Aarhus Living Museum, where history, culture, and craftsmanship come alive. We're stepping into the past to explore the fascinating history of this open-air museum and how it captures Denmark's appreciation for both its rich history and the everyday crafts and trades that have shaped this nation.
This is take 2 on day 2. This time, we are going to visit the Den Gamle By because yesterday we couldn't. We had drive too late. We got the whole afternoon to visit Den Gamle By, but we're probably not going to spend the entire time here up until closing time, which is 5 p.m. today. But check to make sure what time it closes when you visit because it changes during the year depending on the season.
I know I just said we were going to quickly check out this museum, but we actually ended up staying the entire afternoon, and you'll see why.
Let's take a moment and take a look at the map that they gave us. So I guess we're going to be going back in time, and it's going to visit various decades and then the social history behind each of these decades.
Here's our ticket to go back into time.
You can see all of the artifacts throughout the years of Aarhus from 1600, 1900 to the 1900s, mid-century, and then to the modern age. You can totally tell this is a modern age because there's a Blockbuster video. I had no idea that it got over here to Denmark. This is reminding me of my 90s childhood. So we got the Converse All-Stars, Ralph Lauren perfume, and then the Sony PlayStation. Guitar Hero wasn't the 90s, it was like the early 2000s, but you gotta pay homage to it.
Den Gamle By, or the Old Town, is the world's first open-air museum dedicated to urban history.
Now, this is not some sort of videography trick. This is a real car. I can't believe that a Danish person can fit in this car. I thought, they're huge like Vikings. There's no special route to this museum, but what we wanted to do was start at the oldest part of the park and then make our way back to the modern times. I guess that would make more sense, right?
It recreates a Danish town spanning over 300 years, from the 18th century all the way to the late 20th century, with houses, shops, workshops, and even apartments, all brought here from different parts of Denmark.
Interesting, they kept this as authentic as possible, including a horse carriage. And the horses left a little gift on the ground there, so see, authentic. Just a little bit about this brick house. So looks like this house was originally built in 1839 for 3 families, and then it was rebuilt by the museum in 1982 to appear like it's around the 1920s.
There's even a demonstration on how people would cross the river back then. No need to go to the gym to work out your upper body.
We're now going to enter this house. I'm not sure what century it's from. I want to say like the 1700, 1800 maybe. Oh, okay, actually it's a weaving mill from the mid-19th century, so the mid-1800s.
Now I see where the concept of hygge or coziness comes from. It's from these wool that you turn into yarn that then turns into a fuzzy, comfy sweater.
Next up is the merchant's house from Aarhus. And this house was originally built in 1723, so we really are going back in time here. This house looks similar to the ones on the tins of the Danish butter cookies. You know what I'm talking about. The ones where, your mom always kept all of the sewing materials, or at least my mom did, and my grandma.
Seriously, here's proof that this is how my mom stores her sewing materials. One of the most impressive buildings in Den Gamle By is the merchant's house, a grand residence from the 18th century. This house belonged to a wealthy merchant and gives us a glimpse into the lives of the upper class during that time. Walking through its elegantly furnished rooms, you can see the fine details of craftsmanship in every corner, from the wooden beams to the hand-painted wallpaper. It's a reminder of how trades and skilled artisans played a critical role in building Denmark's towns and cities.
I thought that was a real person. Nearly scared me there, but it's actually just a mannequin. But I guess it's the dining room. Let's see what they're having for lunch here. Oh, I got some pretzels, and that bundt cake looks pretty good. It appears we are now in the general store. You can buy all sorts of things here. You can buy a barrel, you can buy a broom, all sorts of kitchenware here.
Of course, the best part of the general store is the sweets, which you can actually buy.
Can't believe this is a general store. It reminds me of scenes from Anne of Green Gables. I feel like a Matthew buying a bunch of sugar instead of buying a puff sleeve dress. Some more of old Aarhus.
It's not just the buildings that you need to marvel over. Pay attention to the gardens.
This looks like an actual garden. This isn't like fake. They're actually growing real crops here.
We would learn that these crops are used in the dishes served at their on-site restaurant. Now that's as local as you can get with produce.
It may be the end of July, but school's in session, so we're here in a schoolhouse from the 1700s. Here we go, school teacher's home. I guess it's the living room. I guess over there is where they slept.
So it appears school's in session, and I find it interesting that some of my students complain that they're uncomfortable when the AC goes out. Take a look at what the classrooms used to look like.
This park is a lot bigger than I expected because it didn't look very big online. But you can see there's different exhibits depending on what century or decade you're looking at. We've been here for about 45 minutes and we just barely scratched the surface.
In Denmark, tradespeople are celebrated for their contribution to happiness, an idea central to Danish culture. When people take pride in their work, regardless of their profession, it builds a sense of purpose, community, and fulfillment. This is a core element of Denmark's high levels of happiness. In the next few houses, we gain an appreciation for the various trades. Let's take a moment to admire the scaffolding on this building. Better give thanks to the lumberjacks who chopped down the trees, the carpenters who put together the planks, and the construction workers for assembling this solid structure. As for these half-timbered Renaissance houses, lots of props go to the bricklayers for this stunning design. Forget about fast fashion back then. Clothing was made by hand and had to last for several years and not until the next influencer's haul on social media.
I can't get over how elaborate these exhibits are. It really takes you back in time and immerses you into Danish culture. It doesn't feel like Disneyland at all where, there's still feeling that, it's artificial, it's fake, it's actors. But the fact that they took some of these real homes all the way back from the 1500s and renovated them, that's amazing to me. That's so cool. It's an old-fashioned merry-go-round. Time for a coffee break. There's still more to see, and it's time for coffee, so that's what I got. I got a cafe latte. I like how the cup's decorated with all the exhibits from Den Gamle By, and just a reminder not to bring it into the exhibit. I couldn't help myself. I got this pastry called the Hinderbar Broad. Not sure what it is exactly, but it was colorful and pretty. This house here is from the 1700s, and they have repurposed it to look like a hatter shop. Oh, cool. Look at all these top hats. It's kind of like the Mad Hatter. And this is how hats were made. So it's not like you can order it off of Amazon. You actually have to come in, pick the style, and then they measure it to your head. Clockmaker's shop from the 19th century. Not, an Apple Watch, but look at all these clocks.
According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization sits at the top of the pyramid. It's the idea that true happiness comes from fulfilling our potential and feeling valued in what we do. Denmark has integrated this into their everyday lives, giving people the freedom to pursue trades without judgment, creating a society where all skills are appreciated.
So I know we saw a lot of trades today, but I guess this would be my trade, which would be a baker. I see this is a bakery. Everything looks so good. Hey, that's what I had gotten earlier, the Hinderbar Broad. This is a meringue, not a macaron, but same concept, sort of.
This is the mayor's house from Aarhus, and it dates back to 1597. Of course, it's rebuilt, but you get the point. After looking at the exhibits on the various trades, I no longer just saw the mayor's house. I saw the end product of the carpenters, bricklayers, joiners, painters, and roofers. It's like I couldn't unsee all the hidden work behind this home, and yet we recognize only the mayor who once lived here. Now look at that maze garden from above, because we're now on the balcony. And here we go again with the garden. This is a living room from the 1680s. In a world where so much emphasis is placed on academic achievements or white-collar jobs, Denmark reminds us of the importance of balance. The trades are equally important because they preserve culture, provide necessary services, and foster a sense of community. It's no wonder Denmark is ranked among the happiest countries in the world. Well, this is exciting. This is a bookbinder house or bookbinding shop. So I wonder if they would have bounded Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales. These books are so beautiful. I had no idea that the bookbinder needed all of these tools. I just thought, I don't know, they just needed some paper and some glue, but it turns out it's an art. Bookbinding is a lost skill in the age of Kindles and ebooks. So these geese are taking a lunch break. These are the same one that we saw swimming in the river. Unlike Disneyland, where the facade represents a fantasy, these buildings of Den Gamle By were once lived in. Just in case you're wondering how they were able to restore these original homes, here's a chart detailing it. So apparently this one in particular came from Copenhagen, and it was built in 1683. This is the Mint Master's Mansion, as you can see from that graphic outside. So again, it was built sometime in around 1680 something, and then they pulled it from Copenhagen to here as an exhibit. Can't believe that they kept the original of the interior here in this hall, including the avian ceiling. I just can't believe how many hours and skills were used to preserve the painting. The tapestry room where official business would take place. As we left behind the old part of Den Gamle By, we came upon an exhibit by a few of the renowned trade schools in Denmark. By now, visitors should have a greater appreciation for the trades, as they are the foundations of society. In the US, for example, we often see the professional managerial class as the pinnacle of success, while trades can sometimes be looked down upon. But in Denmark, that divide doesn't exist in the same way. Whether you're a craftsman, an engineer, a carpenter, or a doctor, each profession holds value. There's no hierarchy when it comes to contributing to society, such that a tradesperson could be honored by one of the princes of Denmark. So we left the old part of Denmark behind, and it's modern because I see Ford up there. So I'm guessing this is early 1900s. Ford and Fordson. Yeah, definitely we're in the early 1900s with this car dealership. I can't believe that's a real Model T. We're now in the toy museum part of Den Gamle By. You can see this is an exhibit of dolls, but what was impressive to me was this dollhouse. Man, this looks even cooler than a Barbie dream house. Nowadays, we talk about having the latest cameras, but this is how they did it back then with all these cameras. So think of it as these are videographers before the age of YouTube. We're about to change scenes here. So notice the cobblestones, and now we are in the 50s. I feel like I'm in that film Pleasantville because we're transported back to the 50s here, except it's not in black and white. So much for flat screens. Look at these old TVs. Actually, I shouldn't say old because my parents had one when I was growing up. So if I'm calling it old, then that makes me old too. My dad had one of these. I remember because when I was a kid, I used to mess around the knobs. What do you have there?
I found it. I was looking for the Beatles album.
I wonder if it's on sale. But then again, I don't have a record player to play it. Oh, or maybe let's get the latest ABBA album. We're now entering a deli. You don't see these type of butcher shops anymore. I mean, the only thing you see is the meat department at the grocery store, and a lot of times they're pretty small. Oh, I gotta go in here. It's the camera store and see what kind of cameras that they have. It's all film, I would presume. No way, I remember this from childhood. My teacher would have this. It was a film projector and we would watch a bunch of boring documentaries on it. The 1970s quarter is a real highlight, complete with record shops and fashion boutiques. It's like stepping into a time capsule. They say everything eventually comes back into fashion, and I guess they're right. I mean, bell bottoms are coming back. No, this is not a display. It's an actual bakery. So this is not fake at all. It's real. That's right. Cigarette machines are now an artifact. People don't smoke as much anymore. Oh, this is a grocery store from, I guess, the 70s? Believe it or not, Den Gamle By even takes you into the 1990s with a fully restored Blockbuster video store. This was the age of VHS tapes, movie rentals, and Friday night nostalgia for many of us. It's a quirky yet perfect nod to the more recent history that resonates with a lot of visitors. They kept this true to form. This is a place for you to return your video so that way you don't get charged for turning it in late. There's 7-Eleven. Of course, that reflects the modern age. Since being in Aarhus, I've seen a few 7-Elevens. I didn't realize that chain was popular. So what did I get from my 5 hours here in Den Gamle By? Well, I learned a lot more about Danish history and the lifestyle dating back from the 1500s to present day. I now appreciate the half-timber Renaissance houses that are on the lid of the tin Danish butter cookies. I think this park does a great job of immersing yourself into Danish culture and history. I'm just amazed how they were able to reconstruct the real homes, especially the ones from the 1500s. And most importantly of all, I love how each of the exhibits would focus on a trade. We talk about sending kids to vocational schools as if it was an alternative to going to university. But it turns out the tradespeople, they were important in society because that's what allowed us to build things, to build homes, to function as a society. So if you have some time while in Aarhus, carve out several hours to visit Den Gamle By. Visiting Den Gamle By shows us that honoring the past and valuing craftsmanship isn't just about nostalgia. It's about building a happier, more inclusive future. When we appreciate all forms of work, we build a society where everyone can feel proud of what they do. Thanks for joining me on this trip back to time. Let me know in the comments, how do you think we can better value trades and craftsmanship in our own communities? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more insights from Denmark.